Well, Mr. Goat has finally got his wish and demoted me from the Swiss tennis expert pundit chair. I am on the stool today while Mr. Goat is cleaning his feet over there. It finally happened. Jannik Sinner has broke through. This has been years in the making, and it came a little late for me. I was very big on him not too long ago, but after last season, I'd soured a bit on the young Italian. Anyways, I'm still catching flack. Take a look at this. Luca Tubo says, we got to find the video where you told us Sinner won't win anything like a coach like Darren Cahill. He actually put the names together. DeHill. Alina Sarlon says, we gotta. It's so easy to talk when a player is losing a few. They suddenly start to lose hope, and when that player starts to win the big ones, he becomes the golden child again. Anyone with no tennis knowledge could do that too. Ooh, that's insulting. Now, I do remember when I said that last year, I was kind of joking, and I said Darren Cahill's a good coach, but he had mentioned that he was going to put Sinner on the phone with Agassi to get a few tips over the phone. That's when I said, if that happens, Sinner's cursed. Obviously, that phone call must not have happened. Do not discount the power of the Agassi curse. Some of you may be new to tennis and not know. Some of you may not remember, but there were a few years where Djokovic went from winning 4 slams in a row to winning no slams for a couple years. And during that period, he was being coached by Andre Agassi. Also, Radek Stepanek was in on that team, who is currently working with perennial loser Sebi Korda. So you may mock me and say, oh, the Agassi curse is not real, but take a look at this.
Actually, it was 4-love and deuce, and I made a forehand winner, and I smiled at you, and I said,
Smiled
it's
to
almost
who?
like your return. After that, I lost 3 games in a row.
This guy. Then he lost 3 games in a row.
Not your fault, my fault. I lost my focus, but...
No, that's not true. It was Agassi's fault, as it always has been. You still don't believe me? Take a look at this. It's one thing to have Agassi sitting in your player box and to make a smile to him, right? Just that. Just looking at Agassi and smiling made him lose 3 games in a row. What do you think happens if you let Agassi touch your racket?
It's good. If I hit with this, it goes
to a line. You mean to a line?
It goes here. It starts here and it goes higher. It doesn't come down. Please, come on.
Do you see that guy right there? So the fan comes in for the selfie?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah. So good luck to you.
That fellow, that's an Italian fan, actually. His name is Giocatori Hugadori. And guess what happened to him after having that selfie with Agassi? He tripped on his shoelaces going down the stairs and died. So you better believe in the Agassi curse. It is very real. But we've always been big on Sinner here. We've always said that he was great. I remember playing this very clip thanks to the YouTube account Novak India Fans, because they posted this up today and reminded us of what Novak Djokovic said. I don't know if this was last year or the year before, but I remember during our Wimbledon coverage here at Coffee Break Tennis, I had put this clip on and said Djokovic is correct.
I have only superlatives and
he's asked about what he thinks of Sinner.
Talk about Sinner's game. I think he's very, very. I mean, we all know he's very talented, but he's already now established top player. And I've seen him play, many different surfaces in the last few years, and he's maturing a lot on the big stage. I think he doesn't feel too much pressure on a big stage, because he can get you sometimes when you're younger, but he's very confident. He believes he can win against anybody. He's very solid. Every shot, he has every shot in his game. Serve, return, forehand, backhand. And he's constantly putting pressure on opponents. So I kind of see a little bit of myself in his game as well. And from back of the court, playing flat backhand and constantly staying close to the line and trying to put pressure on opponents. So
he reminds me of myself, says Novak Djokovic. He is not afraid of anyone. He thinks that he can beat anyone. He knows that he can beat anyone with the power that he possesses, with the movement that he has. But look at this. This was from last year after 2023 Wimbledon, right? He goes on to lose straight sets to Djokovic in the tournament last year. 33-4 record. 26-2 since the U.S. Open, so even a little better if you look at that. I think they're taking out the Cincinnati loss there, because he had lost right away in Cincinnati after having that run in Canada. Anyways, 11 wins versus ATP top 10, 3 wins versus Novak Djokovic, Toronto, Vienna, Beijing champion. Now, notice something. All these great results, they're all best out of 3 sets. So, yes, while I have liked Sinner for a long time, I had seen enough from him last year to think that his body wasn't ready. But don't just take it from me. Now, I talked about a mousy guy the other day. I didn't realize that was actually Matthew Fudgerman from the New York Times. I actually like reading his articles. So no insult to the mousy guy from the press conference. This one's not from Mr. Federman, whatever his name is. This is from Cindy Schmierler. The power and speed of Jannik Sinner. Sinner, 22, is dominating talent and has already beaten many of tennis's top players. I mean, I think Sinner's first top 10 win came a long time ago when he was a teenager still. Anyways, the article starts off talking about how hard he can hit the ball and how good he is, and then they go here. Is Sinner a genuine threat to do damage? Even win the ATP Finals, which begins on Sunday. Really, we need to ask, is he a threat to win majors? Because that's what matters. Nadal, one of the greatest champions of all times, never won the ATP Finals. Most people don't really care. Goran Ivanisevic, Novak Djokovic's longtime coach, has thought so. Jannik Sinner, that's the future, says Ivanisevic back in 2020. For sure, top 5 player, maybe number 1. I can't say that far, but the kid is 18, hits the ball amazingly quick. He is the deal, the real deal. Vaganozzi, whom Sinner has also worked with since last year, has helped Sinner grasp the concept of not just hitting the ball hard, but of also using the dips, the flips, the trips, and the spins and the off-pace shots to open up the court and force his opponents to run until their legs give out. Although, in the big ones, it was Sinner's legs giving out most of the time. Until now. You got to prove it to me. I'm one of those guys where I'll believe, but if I keep seeing something happening in the majors, and that's where it matters, you have to prove to me that you can change that. They talk about lessons that he had, withdrawing from the Paris Masters because he had a late finish and didn't think he'd have enough time to recover against the little rat, Demon Hour. He won in Canada, blah, blah, blah. Also, a prediction I made in 2020. I said, I think 2020 is the last time they had ATP Finals in London. I want to say, was that the last one? I don't know, but I wanted to say that, I did say that he was going to qualify in Italy, in his home country. He would qualify when they moved the ATP Finals on the first time, I guess, or maybe it was the second time. But I do remember saying next year, I think he's going to make it. And he was pretty far from the rankings at the time when I said that. He didn't make it. He made it as an alternate. So I kind of got that one. Anyways, here's where it gets interesting. After suffering through some injuries over the past few years, Sinner has dedicated himself to strengthening his body through off-court work with the fitness coach Umberto Ferrara and his physiotherapist Giacomo Naldari. This year, we made a lot of tough decisions to not play a couple tournaments because it is very important for me to get a lot of gym work, strength, and mobility to get better, Sinner said. I feel it on the court, and that the more the match goes on, the more comfortable I feel. Well, if that's true, what's going to stop this guy? Nothing, I would have argued. Cahill also sees the value in putting training first and the tennis second. A couple of years ago, in a lot of matches, he was breaking down physically, said Darren Cahill. He was a late developer, so he needed to make sure that his body could deal with the rigors of playing at this level week in and week out. Anyways, that's enough of that, but you see where I'm going with this. They obviously have addressed it, right? Now I've been proven wrong. Now the Sinner body, the Sinner legs are ready to take on anything. So that should mean, like we said about Carlos Alcaraz not too long ago, a lot of people said that now he's going to win everything and he's number 1 from here on out, right? Let's ask Danny Medvedev.
Can I get you to talk about Jannik? And you, at the ATP Tour Finals, you mentioned if he keeps playing like this, he's going to be number 1 in the world. He's going to win a lot of slams. He's obviously now got that slam. Does he feel like the best player in the world right now, or do you still feel like that's Novak?
I think that's why we have rankings in tennis, because this tournament he was the best player in the world, and that's why he won the slam. But we never know what happens next. Right now he's number 1 in the race. He continues playing like this, continues winning tournaments like this, he's going to be number 1 in the world at one moment. But we never know what can happen. Many, many things can happen in a tennis career.
Now, I had heard Sinner had been in the gym and working on beefing up the legs so that, those kind of issues wouldn't happen anymore. Sinner's had, for a young player, kind of reminds me also of Djokovic, he's had a lot of retirements. There's a lot of matches he hasn't finished, a lot of times where he won a match and then he had to pull out of the tournament and not play the next match. Look at his record over the last few years. You'll see it popping up multiple times. What Medvedev said there is very important. And like I was just saying, I had seen last year, supposedly he'd beefed up the legs, and I still saw those kind of results. This year, it looks like the off-court training has really worked, okay? I think Djokovic could have pushed him much harder. I think Medvedev did a good job pushing him, and he wasn't able to make the legs. So maybe it's true. Maybe the legs are fixed now, and maybe Sinner is going to be able to take over. But as Danny Medvedev pointed out, we have a rankings for a reason. He was number 1 in the world in this tournament, but now we got to see how is he going to fare in the next tournament, in the next tournament, and the next tournament, and then eventually we're going to get to Roland Garros and the Wimbledons, and then we're really going to find out how true of a champion Jannik Sinner is. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I'm your host. Mr. Goat is your co-host today, asleep on the job. We're happy to be here. We enjoyed the final very much. We hope you did too. Let's put up those rankings. We have a rankings for a reason, says Danny Medvedev. By the way, heartbreak for Danny Medvedev, but don't worry, Med fans out there. He's going to have more chances, I think. And I think, honestly, Medvedev is going to walk away from this one feeling pretty good. A little devastating to be up 2-0 again, but this is not like the time with Rafa. You know, this is very different. The way Medvedev got there, who he was facing in the final with all this hype around Sinner. It was an interesting experience, and as Medvedev said, I think he got stronger mentally, maybe stronger physically too from this tournament, and he's going to have some more great results. But here are how the rankings stand now. Djokovic drops 1,200 points, and he is still way ahead of the pack. Alcaraz gains 400 points, and he is 600 points away from Novak, so that's within touching distance. Medvedev also not too far off, a little over 1,000 points away, about 1,100 points away from Novak Djokovic. And now Sinner is in this, like we have a big four. We effectively have a new big four. Djokovic, Alcaraz, Medvedev, Sinner, and I think it's fair to argue that these are the guys you can expect to be the top contenders for majors this year. I have to retire what I've said about Sinner, about his legs, although weather conditions were not bad. I'd like to see him, in some humid conditions. Atlanta here is horrible. I saw him in 2021, I think, in Atlanta playing, or maybe it was 2022. I saw Sinner play a hot, humid day in the daytime, and he lost to Chris O'Connell, I think his name is, somebody a lot of people never even heard of. So I'd like to see Sinner play a tough match in tough conditions and see how his legs hold up with a bigger test, but we'll throw that out for now, and we're going to have to retire that. It looks like Sinner has fixed that problem under his coaching team, who Darren Cahill insists he's a small part of. Give a lot of credit to those nice Italian fellows in his box. Anyways, Djokovic, Medvedev, Alcaraz, Sinner, they're way ahead in the rankings. 1,500. Sinner needs to win another major to get ahead of Djokovic, but that's way better than when we go to number 5 in the world, number 6 is Zverev, Rublev. They're just about tied around the low 5,000s. We drop down to number 7 with Holger Rune, down to 3,600. Hubie Doobie, 3,500. Taylor Fritz, 3,200. And Steph Tsitsipas, oh, how the mighty have fallen, all the way down to 3,000 points in the ranking, just barely hanging into that top 10. Medvedev, so much credit. It's funny. They really made a mockery of my prediction here. I guess, I can't take the win at all, can I? Because I said Sinner's going to win, and then I had to mess myself up and say, but if it goes 5, he'll lose. Because I didn't think that the legs would hold up in a long match, especially with a lot of nerves, too. Sometimes when you're feeling nerves playing in your first Grand Slam final, I don't care if you did just beat Novak Djokovic, although that must have helped him a little. You did that, and you got to feel like you can do anything. And knowing that Medvedev was going to get tired. I mean, even, the on-court coaching is legal now, and at one point the camera microphones even picked up Darren Cahill yelling out the Sinner in the 4th set, I think it was, saying, he's tired, keep bringing it to him, he's tired. And it was true, and that it makes me feel like I made a very dumb prediction by saying that that Medvedev is going to definitely win if it goes 5, and Sinner can win if it's 3 or 4. It turned out that the only person who could win it in 3 or 4 after Med wins the first 2 sets, of course, is Medvedev. And the only way Sinner could win it was in 5. But that's how little faith I had in his legs going the distance against a top player who can really make you work. And Medvedev made him run all over the place. I love how Medvedev came out, although I saw that. I woke up about 5 a.m. to catch as much of the match as I could live. And they were, fairly deep in the second set. And when I saw these stats, look at how Medvedev comes out hitting his ground strokes a lot harder than he had in every match leading up to the final. And then you look at what that effect had on Jannik Sinner. Check out his numbers. They came down significantly from his average speeds in the tournament. And then you also have this stat, and this was last year. Like I said, who was it who took him out? Was it Tsitsipas? I guess he was working with Philippoussis then, so maybe that was giving him a little hope. But I was already, I hope Tsitsipas doesn't win a major this year because I'll look dumb too. I used to have very high hopes for him, and I've soured on him since as well. Anyways, I mean, I didn't think that Sinner would never win. That was a joke, saying, oh, Darren Cahill and Agassi are getting involved. Sinner's never going to win anything. That was an exaggeration or a joke. But I was putting the whole thing, all my hopes for Sinner, I put that completely on pause until I saw some proof that his legs were going to be able to hold up. I always trusted him mentally. Like Djokovic said in that clip earlier, I always thought that Jannik Sinner believed he could beat anyone. And you know, I was so impressed in that 2020 French Open when he really took it to Rafa and no one else could. You know, Rafa was so on fire in that tournament. That was the last time Rafa won it and wasn't like completely messed up with injuries. You know, he skipped the U.S. Open because he had that fake U.S. Open that Zverev and team kind of did the Pupenpansen final where each one of them took turns choking until one guy choked a little more than the other, and then you had a winner. Reminiscent of that French Open final before Rafa took over at the French Open, where you had Coria and what's the guy? He had a nice one-handed backhand. Gaudio. You know, those guys took turns doing Pupenpansens, and then eventually one of them had a full diaper and lost. You know, that was kind of how that fake U.S. Open final went with no fans. Such a strange thing. And I say fake, a little joking, but when Rafa skips it, and you'd think Rafa could have probably won it if he decided to go there, but he wanted to focus all of his energies on the French. And if Djokovic hadn't hit the line lady in the throat, there's no way Dominic Thiem, I mean, you know, Dominic Thiem's a great player. He made some finals. He deserves a major, but I don't think he would have won that one if the top two players in the world would have been there. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, so we're going back to, look at this. When Medvedev comes out like that and he takes the first two sets, I was a little worried for my prediction because you could tell the way he'd upped his game so much and played so aggressive. You knew, like, okay, him and the team have decided that he's not going to be able to go the distance maybe, so he needs to win it in straight sets. And it looked like the way he executed the game plan so well, if it hadn't been working, it could have looked really bad, right, for him to play different. You know, he's hugging the baseline so closely, coming to net a lot. You know, Medvedev even said, I really like my volley, the way I was hitting my serve and volley. Maybe he'll do it some more in the future. Anyway, so you would have thought as a Sinner fan, this is a real Pupenpansen situation here. There's no time for his legs to get tired. He's mentally not ready for this. Not ready for Medvedev to completely change the game plan. Not ready for the pressure of coming out in his first final and being the favorite, right? That's kind of weird. You know, you go from you're supposed to lose to Djokovic to now you're the favorite to win the tournament. And then you got this. He'd never come back from 2 sets down in his career until last year. I remember that match with Fucsovics, and I had very high hopes. You know, the word was that he'd worked on the offseason to get tougher. His legs were going to be fixed. So I was back on the Sinner train last year around this time. And then he goes and loses to Tsitsipas in a match where it looks like he loses his legs. I believe he'd gone down 6-4, 6-4 in the first 2 sets against Fucsovics, and also in the next match, which I think was Zverev or Tsitsipas? I think it was Tsitsipas. Right, yeah, because Zverev wasn't really back yet, was he? Not really. Wasn't doing as well that early. I think it was Tsitsipas. Anyways, doesn't matter. If we look at his results, and let's do that. Let's go right now. Let's go back to that tournament, and let me just walk you through what happened last year and how we got to where we are now. Adelaide goes down to Korda, who's cursed by Stepanik and Agassi. Korda has been on the phone with Agassi, I'm informed, and has visited him. So the curse is very real. He took out the Cockmeister, Tanasi Kakinaki, and Kyle Edmund. Man, what happened to him? Then, yeah, I was right. Tsitsipas. He goes down to Tsitsipas in 5 sets. You know, just that's hard for anyone, but, you know, Medvedev did it. He's able to go down 2 sets a couple times and win and play some 5-setters too. But he goes down to Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas makes the final. That was the last time Tsitsipas had a good result. He goes to Montpellier and wins it against Maximo Cressimo. Beats Fucsovics, Sonego, Arthur Feast. Feast, that was kind of when he announced himself. He goes to Rotterdam. I played a clip from that last show. I was there for that final match. And he gets through mostly in straight sets outside of the first round. And then, that score's worse than I thought it was. He wins the first set 7-5, looks outstanding in that match. Looks like Him and Medvedev are going to have long rallies, and only he has the ability to ramp up the power level and just finish points. And then all that running around and hitting big shots took him out. Dude was grabbing his legs, cramped legs. I saw that. I really started to sour on Sinner big time after that match. Goes to Marseille and withdraws, right? Legs are not right. You know the drill. It goes to Indian Wells, takes out Richard Gasquet, Adrian Manarino, Stan the Man, Taylor Fritz, goes down to Alcaraz, goes to Miami. We remember what happened there. He beats Alcaraz. Alcaraz, I think, is going to be hard, just like Rafa, for years and years to beat on clay at the big tournaments especially, and to beat at the Indian Wells, just like Rafa always was. In Miami, Rafa never won, never beat Federer except for the very first time they played, which is kind of, you got the bonus of this guy not knowing you yet, hasn't played you yet. And same thing, Alcaraz goes down to Sinner. I think Sinner's game is much better for the Miami court. By the way, I did find some updated court speeds, and it says that it showed Cincinnati being a little slower than Miami, faster than Indian Wells, faster than clay, obviously. And it showed Miami being the same in 2023, the same court speed according to how they measure it, which is crazy situation. They have a robot box, then they have a cannon that shoots a tennis ball through the box. It bounces and it shoots out the other side. It's like this long. And there's cameras in there and infrared laser sensors and stuff like that. And it scans what happens to the ball after it bounces. And that's how they measure the speeds. And supposedly Miami is the same exact speed in 2023 as both the U.S. Open and the Australian Open as well. So he loses to Medvedev in that final. A good first set, 7-5, and then kind of goes away a little, going down 6-3 in the second set. But he did beat Alcaraz in a wild and crazy long match. I remember that one. I think the surface really helps him there. Then he goes down to Holger Rune. Wins the first set 6-1, and then he goes down 7-5, 7-5. I don't remember watching this match. I'm sure I probably did. He had to work pretty hard with Hubie Hurkacz, although those were probably not as many long rallies in there. Takes out Musetti easily, looking really good now. You're thinking, hey, let's hop on the Sinner train. And then he goes down to Holger Rune, goes to Barcelona, and has an easy match, a tougher 3-set match, withdraws. Legs are gone. Goes to Rome, wins an easy match, wins a tough 3-set match with a tiebreak, wins a tough set with a tiebreak against Cerundolo, and goes down, legs are gone, 6-2, 6-2. Kept happening. Roland Garros, he has some really tight sets and runs out of energy and goes down to Daniel Altmaier. I do want to say I remember him looking crampy in the legs at the end of that match. Goes to Schertogenbosch, Rosmalen for the Dutchies. Great win over Bublik on grass. We can throw this result out. That tournament starts not long after he lost. Not long at all. So he probably, it's hard enough to go from clay straight to grass, even though Schertogenbosch, I've heard, is very slow grass. Hard to go there onto grass right away, so we'll throw that result out and just say it's because of that. And he goes to Halle, beats Gasquet, great grass player, beats Sonego, tough player on grass, goes against Bublik and has to retire, has to pull out on grass, where typically you don't have to work as hard, although when you haven't been playing on grass, it is an adjustment because you have to get down lower to the ball, so it does kind of hit your glute muscles especially hard. Goes to Wimbledon. We know what happened there. Has a great run, but then goes out in straight sets to Djokovic. Has a nice tight final set. Then this is where everything changed. We were told everything changes after Canada. Even Medvedev said that in his press conference after the semifinal. He goes all the way through pretty easy. He has, Monfils I saw Monfils right after this in Cincinnati. He looked pretty good. Stan Wawrinka looked good. He gets a walkover from Andy Murray. Berrettini is not himself at all at this point. Straight sets. Has a fairly tough match in the quarters. But then he's got a couple easy wins, 6-4, 6-1 against Demon in the final. And then he goes to Cincinnati, loses first round. He said that he was just exhausted, not just from the matches, but also from all the travel and getting back on court. Canada and Cincy, they play a fairly different. Even though they're both hard courts, they play a lot different. He goes to the U.S. Open, and then this is it for last year's majors. I saw everything I needed to see to decide. His legs are still not there. I saw Wawrinka in Cincinnati last year. Looked awesome. I thought he might even be able to take out Sinner here. They had a tough 4-set match. Although Wawrinka, I think his legs were the ones that looked dead in that 6-2 fourth set. And then against Zverev, He's pushing the guy, but humid conditions in New York don't like his chances against Zverev, and he goes down 6-3 in the 5th set. Okay, so after that, he wins Beijing. Looks awesome. Beats a lot of good players here, including Carlos Alcaraz and Medvedev. And the final, 7-6, 7-6, 7-2, 7-2 in the tiebreak scores over Medvedev is very impressive. I didn't watch this tournament. I got very busy after the U.S. Open, and I was very bummed out because I worked really hard on some cool extra special stuff I did for after the final, after Djokovic won, and I bailed on it. It took me so long to try to finish, and I got so busy with my business and all kinds of other things that I was a little depressed too that I didn't get to finish that video and put it up. It kind of it bothered me for the rest of the year. So I didn't watch as much tennis, and I kind of disappeared, as some of you may know. Sorry about that. Anyways, then Vienna, he has the win. Loses to Ben Shelton. Shanghai, he's probably a little tired there. Can't blame him too much for that. We talked about earlier how he pulled out, didn't think he'd get enough recovery time and want to be ready for Italy and Paris. And then he goes to the Nito Suito ATP Finals and, of course, the Davis Cup Finals. He gets a win over Djokovic in doubles, a win over Djokovic in singles, another win over Djokovic in singles also at the ATP Finals. But he lost the big one, 6-3, 6-3. That was enough for me to say no chance, not yet. Still need a little more work. But he did it. He did it, and here we are. I like what Medvedev said. How you doing, Mr.? He's completely asleep now. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. I like what Daniel Medvedev said very much. There's a reason why we have ATP rankings, and that reason is simple. This is a tough sport. There is no off season. The sport seems to never end. Excuse me. We're entering a new era, right? The era of the big three is definitely over. The era of the big one was short-lived, where Djokovic really was untouchable by anybody, except Medvedev was really the only person I can think of who took him out in that 2021 U.S. Open final. But other than that, you didn't feel like anyone could beat him. Maybe Rafa on clay, but Rafa has not been healthy. We're entering a new era where it's going to be Joker as a top contender. Maybe he's part of a new big four, like I was saying. Our top four players right now, Medvedev and Alcaraz and Sinner and Djokovic. Maybe we're entering a temporary era of a new big four. I don't know how many years Djokovic can keep doing it, but we know that Alcaraz and Sinner, even Medvedev is going to have a lot of good years. And Alcaraz and Sinner, they are so very young. They're both 21, 20, 22, 21. I think they're both 21 still. The guys could dominate for another 15 years possibly. And then we don't know who's on the horizon. We don't know what, we talked about the OG, the original next gen, like that Zverev is a part of, that Medvedev is a part of, that Kyrgios was a part of. We talked about them for a long time, and they didn't do much, and Medvedev's really the only one out of that group winning anything. I guess you can give credit to Dominic Thiem for getting one. I think their time is going to be over pretty soon, except for Medvedev being the exception. I still give Zverev a chance to grab a major. I think it could happen. But we're entering a very interesting time where we know Djokovic will be a threat, a contender for a couple more years for sure. I think he's going to have a chance at Wimbledon this year, next year, maybe even the year after that. Just like Roger Federer was almost 40 and still came very close to winning the Wimbledon in 2019. He made to the quarterfinals in 2021 when he was 40 or 39 years old and had a bad knee. He still managed to make it to the quarterfinals. So we'll give Djokovic a couple more good years of having chances to win majors for sure. But now we're going to see how much can Alcaraz and Sinner make it their generation, right? Can they make it their era? I think they have an opportunity to. I think we're going to see not only Djokovic come back with a vengeance, but we're going to see Alcaraz, after he got cursed by Andre Agassi, he's never going to talk to him again. He's going to want to come back hard and is going to be busting his butt to get ready for the next tournaments. I hope Sinner's going to keep it up. I have every reason to believe that he is. I think he's going to be very tough to beat. I think we're lucky as tennis fans because unlike in women's tennis where you don't really know what to expect from who, except for Sabalenka, now we have some top players that we can really get behind, and we can watch them week in and week out. We can get excited about the matchups that they're going to have at the majors. We're entering a new era of tennis, but I think it's a good thing. It's going to be awesome, and Coffee Break Tennis is going to be here at least for a couple more years to watch the matches, talk about the matches, and enjoy the matches with you. Thanks for watching the show over the fortnight down under. We will be back for, let me think about it. Maybe we'll be back sooner than you think. If Rafa is indeed back pretty soon, We'll be putting videos up to talk about what happens down there. And of course, we'll make it back for Indian Wells in Miami.